In Jessica Walsh's hand, the wine glass shook as the harsh truth began to dawn on her. He had no intention of returning. Her blind date, Brian, had made an excuse about a phone call 15 minutes ago, leaving Jessica by herself at the corner table of Bellini's, one of the most exclusive restaurants in downtown Boston. Initially, she'd busied herself by scrolling through her phone, trying to look occupied, but with each passing minute, the sinking feeling in her stomach intensified. When the waiter came by for the third time, offering a look of pity, Jessica finally accepted it. She had been ditched. "Would you like another glass of wine, ma'am?" the waiter inquired, his tone carefully neutral. Jessica felt her cheeks flush with heat as she looked at the half-finished glass of wine that had set her back $16. "No, thank you. I'll just take the check." As the waiter gave a nod and walked off, Jessica's trembling fingers opened her well-worn leather wallet. $7.32. That was all the cash she had on her. The babysitter was already setting her back $40 for the night, an expense she had rationalized because Melissa from her office had sworn that Brian was a wonderful man and the perfect husband material. Jessica had even treated herself to a new blouse from the clearance section, and the $24.99 price tag still made her cringe when she recalled it. From across the dining room, Marcus Reed watched the woman's growing unease. He was sitting alone at his regular corner table, which gave him a view of both the restaurant and the street. Marcus had spotted the attractive brunette the moment she walked in. Her anxious excitement had been obvious as she adjusted her blouse and checked her appearance in her phone's camera. Now, that very same woman seemed to be on the verge of tears. Her thin shoulders slumped forward as she gazed at the meager amount of cash in her wallet. Marcus took a drink of his 18-year-old scotch, his dark gaze fixed on the woman's face. As the CEO of Reed Enterprises, one of the biggest property development firms on the East Coast, he was skilled at sizing people up. This woman was in a tight spot. "Is there a problem, Mr. Reed?" inquired Thomas, the manager of the restaurant, who had been personally serving Marcus since he became a regular customer 5 years ago. "The woman at table 7, Marcus stated quietly. "What's going on with her?" Thomas cast a discreet look in her direction. "Ah, a blind date, I think. The man left about 20 minutes ago and has not come back." Marcus's jaw became tense. They only ordered drinks and appetizers, but the total is still significant. Jessica looked at her phone, her fingers hovering above the ride-sharing app. The most affordable ride to her home would be more than $15, money she wouldn't have until her next paycheck. Her 5-year-old son, Noah, was at home, with Mrs. Hernandez, her next-door neighbor. The sweet elderly woman had offered to look after Noah as a favor and wouldn't accept any money, but Jessica always made sure to give her something. Tonight, that would not be possible. "Pardon me." A deep voice broke through her anxious thoughts. Jessica glanced up and found herself looking into the most captivating brown eyes she had ever encountered. The man standing next to her table was tall and flawlessly dressed in a custom-fit charcoal suit that radiated wealth and influence. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and the faint aroma of a high-end cologne reached her. "I hope I'm not disturbing you," he went on. His voice was refined, yet it held a surprising warmth. "But I think I know the person you were with this evening." "Brian, right?" Jessica's eyes grew wider. "Yes. Do you have any idea where he is? He mentioned a call, but that's actually the reason I'm here. He requested that I pass along a message to you." The stranger's face took on a look of regret. There was an emergency involving his mother, He had to get to the hospital quickly and didn't want to spoil your dinner. A wave of relief washed over Jessica, quickly replaced by worry. Oh no. Is she going to be okay? He could have just told me. I would have been fine with it. A hint of admiration crossed the man's face. That's very considerate of you. He wasn't sure and, well, he said he would contact you tomorrow. The waiter came over with the bill, and Jessica felt her anxiety surge again. The man saw her reaction and deftly took the leather folder from the waiter. Brian insisted that I handle this. Please, let me. He produced a polished black credit card without so much as glancing at the total. Oh, I really can't let you, Jessica started to say. But the man gave a smile, and a genuine crinkle formed at the edge of his eyes. I insist. Brian and I are old friends. He would do the same for me. He passed the folder back to the waiter, who left with an understanding nod. Jessica was unsure whether to feel grateful or wary. Thank you, but I should probably get going. My son is at home with his sitter. The man's eyebrows lifted slightly when she mentioned her son, but his smile didn't fade. Of course. Can I arrange for a car for you? Jessica paused. She couldn't afford a ride, but walking to the bus stop in her heels would be agonizing, and the next bus wasn't due for another 40 minutes. I have a driver, the man said, as if sensing her predicament. He can drive you home. No expectations, I assure you. It's already covered, and otherwise he would just be taking me home. The sincerity in his gaze made Jessica hesitate. All of her instincts screamed at her to be careful. Handsome, rich men didn't just provide free rides to women who had been stood up. Still, there was something about him that made her feel she could trust him. I'm Marcus, by the way. Marcus Reed. He held out his hand. Jessica accepted it cautiously. Jessica Walsh. Well, Jessica Walsh. What do you think? A safe trip home with my driver, Frank, who is 63 years old and has 5 grandchildren he never stops talking about. A small chuckle escaped her lips despite her unease. When you describe it like that, how could I say no? Outside, a polished black car was parked by the sidewalk. An older gentleman with a friendly face opened the door for her. Good evening, miss. Where are we heading tonight? As Jessica provided her address in the humble Dorchester area, she couldn't help but see Marcus watching her from the restaurant's entrance. He gave a small wave, and she waved back just before the car drove off. What Jessica didn't notice was Marcus going back to his table, taking out his phone, and dialing a number. Detective Sawyer, it's Marcus Reed. I need some information on a man named Brian, no last name known. He arranged a blind date at Bellini's tonight with a woman by the name of Jessica Walsh, then left her with the check. Yes, that's correct. Everything you can find. And one other thing. I'd also like to know more about Miss Walsh. Nothing intrusive, just what's publicly available. He paused, looking toward the street where the car had vanished. No problem at all, just curious. As Frank drove her home, Jessica gazed out the window at the sparkling city lights. For the first time in a long while, she felt noticed in a way that wasn't just about being Noah's mother or an office assistant at Caldwell Insurance. Marcus Reed had looked at her as if she was important. It was likely nothing, just a wealthy man performing a kind act. But as the car moved silently through the night, Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just taken place. She had no idea just how accurate that feeling was, or how much her life was about to get tangled. The following morning, Jessica fumbled with her keys while trying to get Noah out the apartment door. They were behind schedule once again. Noah had been adamant about wearing his favorite dinosaur shirt, which had somehow found its way to the bottom of the laundry pile, leading to a frantic search. Mom, is Miss Peterson going to be upset if I'm late? Noah asked, his blue backpack bouncing on his small back as he jumped from one foot to the other. No, honey, but we still have to move quickly, Jessica answered, finally managing to get the difficult lock to open. The corridor of their apartment building had the smell of someone's burnt breakfast and the persistent scent of a cheap air freshener. It wasn't fancy, but it was their home, a secure haven she had made for Noah after his father left when Noah was just a baby, claiming he wasn't cut out for the family thing. As they hurried down the 3 flights of stairs, the elevator had been broken for the last 6 months. Jessica did a quick mental calculation of the days until she got paid. 4 more days. She could manage. She always did. Whoa, Noah said, coming to a sudden stop at the building's entrance. Jessica almost stumbled over him. Noah, what? Jessica's voice trailed off. Parked right in front of their building was the same polished black car from the night before. The driver, Frank, was standing next to it, a gentle smile on his weathered face. Good morning, Miss Walsh, he greeted, touching the brim of his cap. Mr. Reed sent me to offer you and your son a ride this morning. Jessica blinked, thinking she must be seeing things. Mr. Reed? But how did he? Frank smiled. Mr. Reed is quite resourceful. He thought you might find a ride to your son's school and then to your job helpful. Noah pulled on Jessica's sleeve. Mom, is this our car? It's awesome. No, sweetie, it's not ours. Jessica paused, feeling torn between her mistrust and the practical benefit of a ride that would save them 20 valuable minutes. Are you certain Mr. Reed told you to do this? Absolutely, ma'am. And if it makes a difference, he wanted me to give you this. Frank gave her an envelope with her name elegantly written in bold letters. Inside was a short message on thick, cream-colored paper. Jessica, I hope this little gesture makes your morning a bit smoother. No strings attached. Just returning a kindness that was once shown to me when I was in a tough spot. My number is at the bottom if you want to get in touch, but there's no pressure to do so. Marcus Reed. A business card was attached to the note with a paperclip. Reed Enterprises, it said, along with Marcus's title, Chief Executive Officer. Mom, we're going to be really late, Noah said, his gaze still fixed on the luxurious car. Jessica made a swift choice. Thank you, Frank. A ride would be very much appreciated. As they got comfortable in the soft leather seats, Noah's eyes lit up with excitement. This is the most amazing car ever. Do you drive famous people? Frank laughed as he drove away from the curb. Sometimes, young man, but usually just Mr. Reed. He's a very hard worker. What does he do? Noah asked, his hands exploring the armrest and its hidden compartments. He builds things, big buildings where people work and live, Frank said, his eyes meeting Jessica's in the rearview mirror. He's a good man. Jessica stayed silent, not sure what to think of this surprising act of kindness. When they arrived at Noah's elementary school, her son was completely captivated by Frank, having gotten him to promise to show pictures of all 5 of his grandchildren. Have a great day, buddy, Jessica said, hugging Noah extra tightly at the school gate. Can Frank come get us too? Noah whispered in a loud voice. Jessica tousled his hair. Let's not push our luck, okay? Tell Frank thank you for the ride. Noah waved eagerly. Thank you, Frank. Your car is the best. As they drove away from the school, Jessica took a deep breath. Frank, I'm grateful for the ride, but I need to know, why is Mr. Reed doing all this? Frank's eyes remained on the road. In the 5 years I've worked for Mr. Reed, I've come to see that he notices details others overlook. He saw someone who reminded him of how he used to be. What are you talking about? Did you know he was brought up by a single mother, paid his own way through college, and built his company from nothing? Frank stopped at a red light. Mr. Reed doesn't share much about it, but I've been his driver for a long time. You pick things up. This new information took Jessica by surprise. Marcus Reed, with his perfectly tailored suit and authoritative air, didn't strike her as someone who had ever faced hardship. Still, this is out of the ordinary. Mr. Reed is an out-of-the-ordinary man, Frank answered plainly. When they got to Caldwell Insurance, where Jessica was an administrative assistant, Frank gave her another envelope. Mr. Reed wanted me to give this to you as well. This envelope was heavier. Inside, Jessica discovered 5 crisp $20 bills and another note. To cover the babysitter and the blouse, don't resist. We both know Brian was a jerk. Think of it as his way of making amends. Jessica's face grew warm. How could he have known about the blouse, about the babysitter? It was considerate but also unsettling that he had found out this information. Please thank Mr. Reed for me, but I can't take this, she said, attempting to give the envelope back to Frank. The older man shook his head. He predicted you would say that. He also told me to tell you that pride is a luxury that not everyone can afford. Frank's kind eyes met hers. Sometimes, accepting help is the most courageous thing to do, Miss Walsh. The words struck a chord with Jessica more than she wanted to acknowledge. With both of her parents gone and no siblings, she had been managing everything on her own for so long that taking help felt like admitting defeat. At least let me give you my number, she countered, writing it down on a sticky note from her bag. So I can thank him personally and maybe figure out a way to pay him back. Frank accepted the piece of paper with a knowing look. As you wish, Miss Walsh. Have a pleasant day. In the office, Jessica was met by Melissa's eager expression. So how did it go with Brian? I need all the details. Jessica set down her bag, the humiliation of being left behind fresh in her mind. He walked out in the middle of dinner, and he didn't return. Melissa's jaw dropped. What? That absolute... I'm so sorry, Jess. He came across as so pleasant when I met him at my cousin's wedding. It's okay, Jessica replied, logging on to her computer. Someone actually helped me out. She paused, not sure how much she wanted to reveal. Who? Hold on, did you meet someone new at the restaurant? Melissa leaned forward, her eyes shining with interest. Before Jessica could respond, her phone vibrated with a text from a number she didn't recognize. Good morning, Jessica. I trust Frank made your commute more pleasant. Would you let me compensate for Brian's poor behavior by taking you to dinner this Friday? I assure you I won't vanish. Marcus Reed. Jessica looked at the message, her heart suddenly beating faster. A date with Marcus Reed, the CEO, who had been kind, but was obviously from a completely different world. Hello, Jessica, Melissa said, waving a hand in front of her face. You're turning red. Who sent you that text? The man who helped me last night, Jessica confessed. He's inviting me to dinner. Melissa grabbed the phone, her eyes widening as she read the message. Marcus Reed, as in the Marcus Reed of Reed Enterprises. Jessica, are you aware of who he is? His company is valued in the billions. They're in the process of redeveloping half of the waterfront. Jessica snatched her phone back, a wave of embarrassment washing over her. It doesn't matter who he is. I'm not going. Are you out of your mind? Why wouldn't you? Melissa pressed. Jessica sighed, dropping her voice as their boss passed by. Because men of his stature don't go out with women like me unless they're after something. Plus, I have Noah to consider. Or perhaps he's just a good person who finds you interesting, Melissa countered. When was the last time you went on a proper date, Jess? One that wasn't arranged by well-meaning friends. The fact was, Jessica couldn't recall. Between her job, Noah, and struggling to get by, dating had become her lowest priority. It's just dinner, Melissa urged. I'll look after Noah. You're deserving of something nice, Jess. Jessica glanced at the message once more. A part of her wanted to accept, the part that recalled the feeling of Marcus looking at her as if she was important. But another part, the protective barrier she had constructed around herself and Noah, told her to proceed with caution. As the day went on, Jessica's thoughts kept returning to Marcus. On her lunch break, she did something she hardly ever permitted herself. She gave in to her curiosity. A brief online search brought up numerous articles about Marcus Reed and his firm. Most of them focused on his sharp business mind and his charitable work, which included a foundation that offered scholarships to the children of single parents. By the afternoon, Jessica had come to a decision. She took out her phone and began to type. Thank you for this morning. Dinner sounds lovely, but I have to let you know that I come with some baggage. Specifically, a very inquisitive 5-year-old, who is the most important thing in my life. If that doesn't make you reconsider, then yes. The reply was almost instant. Not at all. I hope to meet him one day. Friday at 7. I'll have Frank come for you. Jessica couldn't suppress the smile that formed on her face. For the first time in a very long time, she experienced a flicker of what felt like hope. What she was unaware of was that, in another part of the city, Marcus Reed was in his corner office, looking at their text conversation with a similar smile and holding on to a secret that had the power to alter everything. Friday night came with a whirlwind of anxious excitement. Jessica stood before her bedroom mirror, closely examining her reflection. She had chosen a straightforward navy blue dress that she had purchased years ago for a cousin's wedding. It wasn't brand new or particularly fashionable, but it was the most elegant piece of clothing she had. Mom, you look just like a princess, Noah declared from the doorway, his dinosaur pajamas slightly crooked. Melissa had come over early to babysit, and she had already kicked off their movie night with popcorn and dinosaur-shaped cookies she had made herself. Jessica smiled and bent down to kiss Noah on the forehead. Thank you, sweetie. Are you certain you're all right with me going out tonight? Noah gave an enthusiastic nod. Melissa said we're going to make a fort and watch 2 whole movies, but his voice lowered to a whisper. I wish I could meet your friend with the amazing car. Maybe you will someday, Jessica answered, running her hand through his wild brown hair, which was the same color as hers, but had stubborn cowlicks that refused to cooperate. You be good for Melissa, all right? I'm always good, Noah stated with a confidence that only a 5-year-old could possess. Melissa came up behind Noah, gently steering him back toward the living room. We're going to have a fantastic time. Don't give it a second thought, she said, then dropped her voice. And don't you even think about coming back before midnight. You've earned this. Exactly at 7 o'clock, Jessica's phone buzzed with a text from Frank, letting her know he was there. After one final anxious look at her reflection, Jessica took her purse and went downstairs. Frank met her with a friendly smile, holding the car door open. You look wonderful, Miss Walsh. Thank you, Frank. And please call me Jessica. As they made their way through the city, Jessica tried to calm her racing thoughts by watching the familiar scenery change into the affluent Back Bay neighborhood. When they stopped in front of a sophisticated brownstone on Commonwealth Avenue, Jessica's nervousness peaked. This was not a restaurant as she had anticipated, but clearly a private residence. Frank, seeing her uncertainty, softly clarified, "Mr. Reed believed you might prefer a more private setting for your dinner. This is his home, but I will be close by all evening. Just give me a call if you need anything." The door swung open before Jessica could even raise her hand to knock, revealing Marcus dressed in dark trousers and a clean white button-down shirt, with his sleeves rolled up to show strong forearms. Without his corporate attire, he seemed more relaxed, though just as handsome. "Jessica," he greeted, his eyes admiring her appearance with obvious pleasure. "You look stunning. Please, come inside." The inside of Marcus's home was a masterful mix of historical charm and modern elegance. Soaring ceilings and original wooden details were balanced by contemporary furniture in cozy, welcoming shades. It was opulent, but not flashy. "Your home is beautiful," Jessica said, admiring the space. "Thank you. I handled the restoration myself." "Well, with the assistance of an actual building crew," Marcus added with a modest smile. "Can I get you a glass of wine or something different?" "Wine would be perfect," Jessica said, trailing him into a warm kitchen that was filled with the delicious aroma of garlic and herbs. "I hope you don't mind that I'm cooking for you instead of taking you out," Marcus mentioned, as he filled 2 glasses with a rich red wine. "I find that restaurants aren't always conducive to genuine conversation." Jessica took the glass, feeling surprised. "You cook?" "Another one of the skills I picked up in my single-parent household," he said, turning to check on something simmering on the stove. "My mom had 2 jobs. It was either learn to cook or survive on cereal." The casual way he spoke about his past helped to ease some of Jessica's nervousness. "Frank told me you were raised by a single mother." Marcus looked up, a hint of vulnerability flashing across his face. "Frank is too talkative," he said, but his tone was fond. "Yes, it was just my mother and me. She cleaned at a hospital during the day and waitressed at night. She was the strongest person I've ever known." "She must be incredibly proud of you now," Jessica commented, taking a small sip of the wine, which was certainly the most expensive she had ever tried. Marcus's expression briefly darkened. "She passed away from cancer while I was in college, but I believe she would be." "I'm so sorry to hear that," Jessica said softly. Marcus shook his head as if to dismiss the somber thought. "Tell me about Noah. Frank says he's quite the personality." Jessica's face immediately lit up. "He's wonderful, bright, humorous, and completely fascinated with dinosaurs. He can explain the difference between an Allosaurus and a T-Rex in minute detail, which, just so you know, he will do if you ever meet him." "I would enjoy that," Marcus said, with a sincerity that caught her off guard. "I actually know a bit about dinosaurs myself. I went through a major paleontology obsession when I was a kid." For the next hour, they engaged in a relaxed conversation while Marcus cooked the meal, a delightful pasta with scallops that Jessica couldn't praise enough. He posed insightful questions about her life, her job, and her aspirations, questions no one had taken the time to ask in a long time. In return, she learned about his path from community college to launching his own business, the setbacks he faced, and his dedication to responsible development projects. "Most developers acquire a property, evict the current tenants, and construct high-end condos," he explained as they moved to the living room with their wine after the meal. I established a principle early on. We don't uproot residents. Instead, we renovate buildings while preserving the community. It's more costly, but it's the ethical choice. That's very impressive, Jessica noted, getting comfortable on the plush sofa. Most companies wouldn't be concerned about the effects on families. Marcus sat down next to her, his expression serious. I witnessed my mother's struggle to secure safe, affordable housing. I refused to contribute to that issue. As the night went on, Jessica felt herself increasingly captivated by this multifaceted man who balanced sharp business instincts with true empathy. When he smiled, a genuine smile, not the polite one he had worn at the restaurant, his entire face lit up, showing a dimple on his right cheek that made her heart flutter in an embarrassing way. "So," Marcus began, placing his wine glass down, "I've been curious all week. Why did you agree to a blind date with Brian? He doesn't strike me as your kind of person." Jessica gave a soft laugh. "To be honest, Melissa just wore me down. She's been attempting to set me up for years. I typically refuse, but—" She paused, then chose to be truthful. "Sometimes it gets lonely being by myself. Not that I'm ever truly alone. I have Noah, but having a grown-up conversation that isn't about insurance claims or dinosaurs is a nice change." Marcus's gaze met hers. "I know that feeling all too well." "You do?" Jessica arched an eyebrow. "I'm sure there are plenty of women eager to date the successful and attractive Marcus Reed." "Attractive, am I?" He smirked before his face grew more somber. "There are many women who are interested in dating what I stand for. Money, prestige, influence. There are fewer who can look beyond that." The rawness of his confession resonated with her. Before Jessica could formulate a reply, however, Marcus's phone made a buzzing sound. He looked at it, and his brow furrowed. "I apologize. I must take this. It's the hospital." Jessica's worry was immediate. "The hospital? Is everything all right?" "It's not an emergency," he said, getting up. "It's just a call I was anticipating. Please excuse me for a moment." As Marcus went into another room, Jessica's eyes fell on a framed picture on a side table that she hadn't noticed earlier. It was a photo of a young boy, around 8 or 9 years old, with a woman in a hospital uniform. The boy was clearly a young Marcus, but there was something about the woman that felt familiar to Jessica. She picked up the frame and looked closely at the woman's kind face, the particular way she tilted her head. "That's my mother," Marcus said as he came back into the room. His voice sounded tight, different from before. Jessica put the frame down with care. "She has a gentle face. You have her smile." Marcus didn't answer right away. Instead, he sat back down, his gaze intense. "Jessica, there's something I have to tell you. Something I should have brought up earlier, but I wanted you to get to know me first." A chill settled in Jessica's stomach. This was the point where it all unraveled, where he would disclose some issue that would ruin this perfect evening. "The evening we met at the restaurant," Marcus started, his tone deliberate. "It wasn't by chance." "What are you talking about?" Jessica asked, her body growing rigid. Marcus drew a deep breath. "I knew who you were before that night. I've known for some time now." Jessica looked at him, her mind a mix of confusion and a budding sense of fear. "That's impossible. We've never met." "Not in person, no." Marcus took out his phone, brought up a picture and showed it to her. "But I know this woman very well." Jessica glanced at the screen, and then all the air seemed to leave her body. The picture was of an elderly woman in a hospital bed, giving a faint smile to the camera. It was Mrs. Hernandez, her neighbor, Noah's occasional babysitter. the kind woman who had become like a grandmother to them. Mrs. Hernandez? I don't get it. How do you know her? Marcus looked at her directly. Her name is Elena Hernandez now, but she used to be Elena Reed. She's my aunt, my mother's sister. The news struck Jessica with the force of a physical impact. Your aunt? But that means... She's been telling me about you and Noah for nearly 2 years, Marcus confirmed. About the kind single mother next door who reminds her of my own mom. About the little boy who is obsessed with dinosaurs and brings her his drawings. Jessica's thoughts were in a whirl, reinterpreting countless small moments in a new context. The times Mrs. Hernandez had spoken of her nephew who was in the construction business. The occasional presents for Noah that were just something my nephew found. The subtle inquiries about Jessica's love life. The blind date, Jessica said abruptly, a terrible thought taking shape. Did you set that up too? Was Brian even a real person? Marcus appeared genuinely taken aback. Good heavens, no. I would never do something like that to you. Brian is, unfortunately, very real. A friend of Melissa's cousin, just as she said. So what did you set up? Jessica asked, getting to her feet. Why am I really here? Marcus also stood, his face filled with regret. Aunt Elena has been trying to get us to meet for months. I kept saying no because it felt contrived. I wanted to meet you in a natural way, or not at all. He ran his hand through his hair in frustration. Then I saw you at the restaurant that night. When Brian left you, I tried to convince myself it was just a coincidence, an opportunity to help. But I recognized you from the pictures Aunt Elena had shown me. So you lied, Jessica stated without emotion. You acted like you didn't know who I was. Yes, Marcus conceded, and I've been sorry for it every second since. I should have told you the truth from the very beginning. Jessica picked up her purse, her hands shaking slightly. I think it's time for me to go. Jessica, please. Marcus didn't try to touch her. He didn't physically stop her, but his voice was filled with urgency. The bond we felt tonight, that was genuine. Getting to know you over these last few days has been the most authentic experience I've had in years. How can I trust that? Jessica asked, her voice heavy with hurt. This entire thing started with a lie. As she made her way to the door, Marcus called out to her. The hospital called tonight. It was about Aunt Elena. She had a small stroke yesterday. She's in stable condition, but... Jessica stopped, her hand on the doorknob. Mrs. Hernandez is in the hospital. Why didn't you tell me right away? She made me swear not to make you worry, Marcus said, his voice strained with emotion. She doesn't want Noah to find out she's ill. The anger in Jessica's chest clashed with her concern for the woman who had become so dear to them. Which hospital? Massachusetts General. I can drive you to see her now, if you'll come with me. Jessica hesitated, caught between her hurt over the deceit and her urge to see Mrs. Hernandez, Elena, for herself. Please, Marcus said gently. She would be so happy to see you. Jessica looked at him, really looked at him, trying to make sense of the man she had been connecting with all night and this new information. Beneath his wealth and power, she saw true concern for his aunt, and something more when he looked at her. Something that made her own heart ache despite her misgivings. Fine, she finally agreed. Take me to her. What Jessica didn't realize was that in Elena Hernandez's hospital room, another surprise was waiting. One that would alter everything she thought she knew about her life with Noah. The hospital hallway felt like it stretched on forever as Jessica trailed Marcus toward the room where Elena Hernandez, Mrs. Hernandez, was recovering. Jessica's mind was still reeling from what Marcus had revealed. All this time, the kind elderly woman who had become like a part of her and Noah's family had been secretly trying to bring her nephew and Jessica together. "Her room is just down this way," Marcus said quietly, his usual air of confidence diminished by the stark hospital setting. "The doctors are confident she'll have a complete recovery, but she needs to rest." Jessica gave a nod, her mixed feelings about Marcus pushed aside for now by her worry for Elena. "Does she know that I'm coming?" "No. I didn't want to make a promise in case you chose not to." His frankness was surprisingly comforting. They stopped in front of room 412, and Marcus knocked lightly before opening the door. Inside, propped up against pillows and looking more frail than Jessica had ever seen her, was Elena. Her face lit up the moment she saw them. "Jessica! Marcus!" Elena cried out, her voice not as strong as usual, but filled with pure joy. Together, at last. Jessica went to her bedside and took the older woman's hand. "Mrs. Hernandez, Elena, why didn't you let me know you were in the hospital?" Elena made a dismissive gesture with her other hand. "It was just a little dizzy spell, not something for a young woman to be concerned about." Her gaze shifted between Jessica and Marcus. "So, the two of you have finally met in person." Jessica couldn't help but smile, despite the lingering sting of deception. "Yes, though I've just learned about your matchmaking efforts." "Not efforts," Elena corrected with a firm tone. "Fate. You two are meant for each other. I realized it the first time I met you, Jessica. You have the same kind heart as my sister, Marcus's mother. Strong, full of love." She gave Jessica's hand a squeeze. "And you, Marcus, you needed someone genuine, not those high society women who are only interested in your money." Marcus moved to the other side of the bed. "Aunt Elena, you should have allowed me to tell Jessica the truth from the start." Elena's face took on a playful expression. "And would you have, or would you have overanalyzed everything as you always do?" She looked back at Jessica. "He thinks about everything to an extreme. He gets that from his father's side." In spite of herself, Jessica let out a laugh. The sound seemed to ease some of the tension in the room. "I have something I want to show you, Jessica," Elena said suddenly, her voice changing. "In my bag, the blue envelope." Marcus got his aunt's bag from the side table and located the envelope. Elena motioned for him to give it to Jessica. With a sense of curiosity, Jessica opened it and took out a faded photograph. It was of two women in their 20s, their arms linked, smiling for the camera. One was clearly a younger Elena. The other... Jessica felt the color leave her face. This is my mother." Elena nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "Maria Gomez, before she married your father and became Maria Walsh. We were nursing assistants together right here in this hospital 30 years ago. Best friends for 5 years before she left when she got married." Jessica looked at the picture, her hand shaking just a bit. Her mother had passed away when Jessica was 16, and with her went so many stories and memories that Jessica never got the chance to hear. "You knew my mother all this time?" "I didn't realize it at first," Elena clarified. "Not until you told me your maiden name was Gomez. Then I saw her in you. Her smile, the way you tilt your head when you're deep in thought. I came across this picture, and I knew." "Why didn't you say anything?" Jessica whispered, her gaze still fixed on the image of her young, cheerful mother. Elena's expression was gentle. "I was waiting for the perfect time. Then it occurred to me what better way to connect than through my nephew, the son of her other best friend." Marcus appeared as surprised as Jessica was. Your mother knew my mother? Elena nodded. The three of them were inseparable, until Maria met Jessica's father and moved to Chicago. We fell out of touch over the years. This was long before email and cell phones. Do you understand? When my sister, your mother, Marcus, became ill, I tried to find Maria, but... She let out a sigh. Life has a way of separating people. Jessica dropped into the chair next to the bed, feeling completely overwhelmed. So, all of this, you moving into my building, was pure chance, Elena assured her. I had no idea you were Maria's daughter until I had already been your neighbor for months. But once I found out, she smiled at Marcus. I knew you had to meet my nephew. Your mothers would have wanted it. The room was quiet as Jessica and Marcus tried to process this new information. Their mothers, best friends so many years ago. The link between them stretched back to before either of them had been born. I have more pictures, Elena went on. Stories about your mother I can tell you. She was a wonderful person, Jessica. So full of energy, just like you. Jessica felt tears forming in her eyes. I would love that. The moment was broken by a nurse coming in to check Elena's vital signs. I'm sorry, but visiting hours are over in 15 minutes, and Mrs. Hernandez needs to get some rest. As the nurse went about her work, Jessica's eyes met Marcus's from across the bed. The anger and sense of betrayal she had felt before had started to fade, replaced by a new perspective on their shared past. I'll drive you home, Marcus said softly once the nurse had left. Elena reached for both of their hands. You'll both promise to come back tomorrow, together. Jessica paused, then gave a nod. Of course we will. Out in the hallway, Marcus and Jessica walked in silence to the elevator. When the doors shut, leaving them alone, Jessica finally broke the silence. You really had no idea about our mothers? Marcus shook his head. None at all. Aunt Elena never brought it up. He paused, then said, I'm still sorry I wasn't straightforward from the beginning about knowing who you were. Jessica leaned back against the elevator wall, feeling emotionally drained. I can see why you did it. I probably would have run for the hills if I'd known. And what about now? Marcus asked cautiously. The elevator doors opened, sparing her from having to answer right away. They walked through the silent hospital lobby and out into the crisp night air, where Frank was waiting with the car. Would you mind if we walked for a little while? Jessica asked unexpectedly. I need to get my thoughts straight. Marcus nodded, letting Frank know they would be a bit. They started walking along the riverfront, the city lights shimmering on the surface of the dark water. I keep thinking about Noah, Jessica said after a few minutes of comfortable silence. He absolutely loves Mrs. Hernandez. Elena, finding out she's in the hospital is going to be hard for him. We could take him to see her tomorrow, Marcus offered, if you think it would help him to see that she's doing all right. The casual use of we did not go unnoticed by Jessica. She stopped and turned to look at him. Marcus, what is this between us? Is it just because our mothers were connected or because of Elena's matchmaking? Marcus met her gaze without flinching. I was drawn to you before I knew any of that. The woman I saw at the restaurant, strong, proud, and kind, even after being treated so poorly. That's the person I wanted to get to know. He moved a step closer. The woman I've come to know since then, dedicated to her son, hardworking, and strong. That's the person I'm starting to fall for. His words hung in the air between them. Jessica felt her heart begin to race. I have a son, My entire life is centered around him. Any relationship I'm in has to include him, Marcus finished. I'm aware of that, and it doesn't frighten me. I'd love to meet him whenever you're comfortable with it. Jessica looked at his face in the soft moonlight. You're the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. I'm an administrative assistant who sometimes struggles to pay rent. Our lives are worlds apart. Marcus gave a gentle smile. Are they? We were both brought up by single mothers who had to work hard to get by. We both understand what it's like to earn everything we have. The only difference is timing and opportunity. He reached for her hand hesitantly. I'm not asking for a lifetime commitment tonight, Jessica. Just a chance to see where this could lead. Jessica looked down at their intertwined hands, then back up at his face. In his eyes, she saw something rare and valuable. True empathy, not sympathy for her situation, not an interest in her real-world life, but the recognition of a shared spirit. Okay, she said softly. A chance. His smile was worth the leap of faith. The next afternoon, Jessica took Noah to the hospital. She had told him that his dear Mrs. Hernandez was feeling a bit under the weather, but would be back home soon. What she hadn't prepared him for was meeting Marcus. Is that him? The guy with the amazing car, Noah whispered loudly as they got closer to Elena's room, seeing Marcus standing in the hallway with a small gift bag. Yes, that's him, Jessica confirmed, a sudden wave of nerves washing over her. His name is Marcus, and he's Mrs. Hernandez's nephew. Noah's eyes grew wide. Whoa, does that mean Frank is her nephew too? Jessica laughed. No, Frank is Marcus's employee. Marcus came toward them, bending down to be at Noah's eye level. You must be Noah. I've been told. You're the world's leading expert on dinosaurs. Noah stood up straighter with pride. I know all of them, even the ones with really long names like Pachycephalosaurus. That's very impressive, Marcus said with genuine admiration. I brought something for you, he said, handing over the gift bag. Your mom said it was all right. Inside was a museum-grade fossil cast of a velociraptor claw. Noah's jaw dropped in disbelief. Is this real? He asked in a hushed tone, holding it with care. It's a replica, Marcus clarified. But it's the exact size and shape of a real one. Noah looked up at Marcus with a new level of admiration. This is the most awesome thing ever. At Elena's hospital bedside, their connection grew stronger. Elena told stories about Jessica's mother that filled in the missing pieces Jessica had carried with her for her entire adult life. Noah made Marcus his official dinosaur expert, a position Marcus took with great seriousness. When Elena was discharged 3 days later, it felt completely natural for all of them to help her get settled back into her apartment. The weeks that followed brought about changes that none of them could have predicted. Elena's health issue had made her rethink living by herself, and Marcus offered her a lovely apartment in one of his buildings, complete with a live-in nurse. To everyone's astonishment, she agreed, but only if Jessica and Noah could also move into the same building. I'm not ready to give up being Noah's honorary grandmother, she declared. The new apartment was far beyond anything Jessica could have ever dreamed of. It was spacious, with big windows and a second bedroom for Noah that Marcus helped him decorate with a dinosaur mural. When Jessica insisted that she couldn't possibly accept such a generous offer, Marcus had a straightforward reply. It's not a handout, it's family. Our mothers would have wanted this. 6 months later, on a cool autumn evening, Marcus asked Jessica to join him in the rooftop garden of their building. Small white lights were strung up around them, and the city stretched out below like a glittering tapestry. There's something I need to ask you, Marcus said, taking her hands in his. These past few months have been the happiest I've ever been. Being with you and Noah has shown me what's truly important. Jessica's heart fluttered as Marcus got down on one knee, holding a small velvet box. Jessica Walsh. Our story started long before we ever crossed paths, through the friendship of our mothers. I am convinced they brought us together for a purpose. He opened the box to show a beautiful yet tasteful diamond ring. Would you give me the incredible honor of being my wife? Tears streamed down Jessica's face as she gave a nod. Yes, she whispered. Yes. As he placed the ring on her finger, Jessica's mind went back to the night at Bellini's, when being stood up by a blind date had led her down this unforeseen journey. From having only $7 to her name to discovering love, family, and a link to her past she had never thought possible. Later that night, when they shared the news of their engagement with Noah, his reaction was pure 5-year-old logic. Does this mean Frank is going to drive us everywhere now? They all laughed, and Jessica saw Elena dabbing at happy tears in the corner. Two mothers, friends in life, had in some way led their children to one another through time and circumstance. As Marcus wrapped his arms around her, Jessica felt, for what might have been the first time in her adult life, that she was precisely where she was meant to be, no longer on her own, but embraced by a family that had been waiting for her from the very beginning. From $7 to a new beginning in love, Jessica's life had come full circle, and this time, no one was going to leave her behind.